Hey everyone, this is Cindy, and I'm here with my friend and my yoga instructor and my teacher, Jeff Bailey.
Thank you, Cindy.
And but I met Jeff just about a year ago before the Pure Presence conference that took place last spring. I had never met Jeff. I had never heard of him. I was told that I was going to host him in the Facebook Live. And so about 10 minutes before the call started, I took a look at his website and his bio. I didn't even know I was talking to someone who had found a way to merge body practice, yoga, with Course in Miracles and non-duality teachings. And had no idea I even wanted that. And somehow, when Jeff started speaking right here, I was in a different room, but during this Facebook Live, inviting everyone to that conference, my heart just opened up. I started crying. I said, something's changing. And Jeff reached out to me right after that. We had a session. We had a one-on-one session even before the conference. I started doing, at that time, he doesn't recommend the daily practice. So for a couple months or less, it was 3 or 4 times a week. And then since then, I've had a daily practice. So I know Jeff a lot better than he knows me because he's on my living room TV screen every day, different times a day. And people have been asking me, Jeff, before I even introduce you, why do you do that? And honestly, I don't know. They say, well, what are your changes? I say, I don't know. I just know that I'm quieter, more open. I don't even know, like there's been aches and pains, car accidents and Bell's palsy and stuff, but I don't, like pain doesn't even, I don't know what it means anymore. It's all just sensation. Things that happen in my face are related to my hip. I move my foot a certain way and there's a shift in the top of my head. So I've given up. I don't question anything anymore. I just show up for the practice. And everything about my life is more open, more relaxed. I can say that I sleep really well at night. My digestive system is much better, but mostly I'm just quieter, happier. And so I wanted to say that as an introduction. Hey, wow. Jeff.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, so Jeff is a presenter in our upcoming Know Thyself conference. So I'd love it, Jeff. I'm going to go mute after that longer than average intro and ask you to introduce yourself, whatever it is you want the group to know, and then if you can tell people what it is they can expect when they visit us in the conference.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. I guess before I introduce myself, I just would like to say good job. And maybe those aren't even the right words. You are just, good job. We kind of speak to the self-construct. But you came into my life and I came into your life not as an accident. We know there are no accidents. There are only miracles, really. And if we're open to, if we let the real vision come through, we're just really more and more guided from one miracle to the next. And what you're describing there, Cindy, is just a beautiful testimony to this practice where we use the body to get to the mind. The Course tells us specifically, and then, or I guess the Course tells us directly, and then in roundabout ways, many, many times over, healing happens at the level of the mind, all healing. And so to manipulate the body, to have surgery, to have any kind of intervention See the word alone, intervention, we end up getting in our own way. And it's not wrong. Sometimes we can even be guided by spirit to go have a certain surgery or go have certain things done to the body. The course is not asking us to not use our bodies in helpful ways. So that aside, what the Avita yoga practice is really, I've just been guided to bring all the principles of A Course in Miracles, which is really an undoing. That word is used a lot throughout the course. If we can undo in mind, then we can also undo in the body. There's no accomplishing a shape. There's no getting it right. There's no outer alignment. It's all inner alignment. And as you know, Cindy, it's a lot of the work is done on the floor. There's combinations, sometimes active, sometimes passive, sometimes a little bit of both. But it's all designed to bring the blockages in the body first to the light of our awareness. We've got to hold these blockages up. And it's one of the early lessons that tell us, my thoughts are images I have made, which means everything I see is an image that my thought has made, including this body. So the moment I start to fix or manipulate is the moment I start to harden. And we don't want to harden. It's what judgment does. Judgment hardens our world. Condemnation hardens our world. And how many times do I use the word soften in the practice, Cindy? It's like we want to soften. If we can start to soften our body, and if we can support our body and approach these blockages in the body in a yielding, forgiving way, it just opens the door to the mind. And then the thoughts of forgiveness start to become a way of life. If we can apply them to our bodies and find a safe entryway into what I call the cycle of pain, where some sort of trauma leads to injury, injury leads to fear, fear is traumatic, and that leads to hardening of the injury. And then because pain is seldom in the same place that the problem is, right? We know the Course tells us problem and solution are always in the same place in spirit, but the ego puts pain in one part of the body while the problem is in another. And so we don't chase pain around, we don't do any of that, but we intervene. We want to find a safe entry point into the cycle of pain, where we might touch a hip issue or a shoulder issue or a knee issue that normally we would stay out of. We want to just avoid it. And that's what we're taught to do in this world, is avoid the pain, protect it, safeguard it. All those things won't bring better health. You probably heard me say, Cindy, you cannot protect your way into better health. What's the lesson? In my defensiveness, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. It's true in the mind. It's true in the body. If I defend my pain by avoiding it, if I make it real, if I defend a certain part of my body, if I stay out of my knee entirely because it hurts, then I'm falling right into the trap of the ego. And so we find these very, very, very safe entry points to interrupt that pain cycle. And miracles start to happen left and right when we take this thoughtful, slow, meditative approach. And now everything starts to reorganize. The body says, wait a minute, I thought you wanted to stay out of here. I thought you wanted to stay out of your low back. I thought you wanted to stay out of your hip. I thought you wanted us to put in layers of connective tissue and make this rigid because you're not using it anymore. Ah, I see. You seem to want to use your knee again. You seem to want to get that flexion back. You seem to want to do that. And now, as the mind changes and we move into this forgiving mind state, now we're whether we realize it or not, we're accessing the healed mind, where instead of projecting and pushing the fear and pushing the things away, right? And we also know that one of the really the only probably universal law is that which is given is received. We, instead of pushing the pain away, which only reinforces it, now I welcome it. We shake hands. We embrace this thing that we were pushing away, and everything starts to reorganize. I use the word reorganize a lot because that's what happens at the level of the soft tissues and the bones and the joints and the mind. That is yogic alignment. When we start to reorganize and really align vertically, instead of just trying to constantly get one body part lined up with the next, that won't bring us, it certainly won't bring us peace, and rarely does it bring any really helpful lasting effects in the body. So that's I guess a little bit of what's happening in the practice itself. It's just such a fun thing to share and teach, of repurposing the body and using it. It's like going on it's an adventure to go inside. In fact, I just had a student email me this picture. She was somewhere in Spain with this, she was on like a rooftop balcony and all these beautiful houses and the ocean in the distance. She's been practicing with me for years, just like you, Cindy, online. She said hello from Mallorca or someplace, I'm not sure even where it was, but there somebody took the picture while she was doing a shape. And so so we can take the yoga with us everywhere, but the real journey is inward, and watching everything unwind as we change our mind about it. And that's what the course is all about, and that's really what healing is all about. And I love, Cindy, how you said, I think you said something like, I don't know what's happening, and I'm not trying to figure anything out anymore, and hallelujah, we don't have to figure it out. And the moment we do is the moment it stops being yoga.
Well, a couple things. Number one, just in case anybody was wondering, Jeff is going to lead us into the practice of Avita Yoga during his 90-minute session. So that's number one. Number two, you don't really, it's not about like, it'll meet you wherever you are. Anyone pretty much could do this, because if you can't even get on the floor, most of it's in the mind. It begins there. One of the key things that it took me a little while, but I'd love for you to talk about this because it's such a big part for me. It took me about a month to slow it down. Even though you even said it now, it's not about getting somewhere. It's about paying attention to where you are and how it feels, and, finding all the hiccups along the journey and being still and watching them dissolve. So the slowing down and really, if you could comment on this idea again, you say it in almost every practice. It took me months, so go ahead and repeat it. It's not the shape. But the other thing that I think that is so different about this practice, which is well, there's two things, but one is compression, because I've never, in all the different things I've done to try to heal the body over the decades, compression was never part of the equation. And I found myself today just, on my belly with my head up, turned to the side, with compression on just the ribs and watching things open and shift. And, I never knew that the bones were flexible and malleable and shift the way they do.
No, the bones sure feel hard, don't they? Right? Relative to the other tissues, they feel so hard. And I remember in Rolfing school, they were talking about the sutures. We have all these different bones in the skull with little sutures. between them, and they're designed to have a little bit of mobility in those, where these bigger bones kind of come together that make up our head. And there's a whole school of thought that says that they're all fused together, but in truth, they're designed to move a little bit. So there's movement where we perceive stillness. There's no way, the only theoretical way we can have stillness in form is to get to 0 degrees Kelvin, which I actually Googled that once and went online, and they had these videos of people trying to get to 0 degrees Kelvin, and it's impossible. They can't get there. They can get very close, but when they get there, weird things start to happen. So everything is moving. And bones in particular have a special name called remodeling. Bones remodel, and they respond very well to compression. The whole world, and the whole yoga world especially, even the fitness industry, has organized itself around strength and stretch, and we get more creative and more intense about how we can do that. And it oftentimes leads to injury, and we may start to look better, we get bigger muscles, we get bigger this, more that, but it's not sustainable. And it just becomes, it can be part of the distraction. And so we slow down. It's a slow practice. It lets people drop in and slow down enough to where we can, so if I just use my finger here as an example, we can add compression with activity. See, I'm squeezing my finger pretty strong, but look, I can go further if I add a little bit of pressure to it. So it's that idea in a nutshell, where we start to add compression, and you can see maybe how it gets white around the joints here, and there's all this healing physiology that happens in and around the joints. In a way, physically speaking, that's the secret sauce of Avita yoga. We may have stretchy sensations here and there, but we don't stretch muscles. We don't target the stretch. A lot of people are repulsed by yoga and stretching because it's like fingers on a chalkboard. They hate it. And there's a reason for that. Muscles don't really stretch. But once you get into this compressive quality, amazing things start to happen. Compression and elevation. And rest. Remember the formula? Rice is sort of the first aid treatment. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. We do all three, no ice. We leave out the ice. But we do practice in a room temperature room. And that way the restrictions come to the light. We don't warm up and heat up and try to attain a shape, because then we just miss the obstacle altogether. So I'll wrap this up here, Cindy. I guess in a nutshell, I really do spend a lot of time coaxing people off the edge where they've been taught to push, 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 push. And just today in class, there was a man over here, maybe his third time in the class. His wife had been coming for months, if not maybe a year. And I asked him, how you liking the class? And he said, man, I like this. It's surprising how much we actually get done. It's kind of a workout. And I said, yeah, I said, sometimes I say, we just lay around and get better. Less is more.
With that, there is a link here on Facebook. You can register for free to attend the Know Thyself conference, April 24th through 26th. Once you register, you can get the agenda. You can come visit Jeff and I for the Avita yoga class, along with a whole bunch of other amazing non-dual Course in Miracles instructors, non-dual teachers, a little bit of science, a lot of love, and some phenomenal music thrown in. It's a great weekend.
It's a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, so come and join us. We'll look for your comments in right after we end. I was so engrossed here, I did not pull myself away. Thank you so much, Jeff. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we take off?
Well, I would just say, if one of the things that's helpful for the practice is some wall space. You might just think about carving out a little wall space in your house. If you don't have wall space, you can use a chair or a couch and just put you'll lie on the floor with your legs over the couch or the seat of a couch or a chair. A belt is handy, a 6-foot belt, because sometimes we'll use a strap. So you don't have to rush out and buy a bunch of special stuff. The most helpful thing are these bolsters. I'm sitting on one here, and a bolster is super handy, but a firm pillow or some sort of cushion like that will work. And a yoga mat can be helpful, but not necessary. Yeah. So, and if you don't even need that, just come and watch and take it in that way. And maybe down the road, you'll be inspired to try a little bit.
Yeah, you can come join me because I'm there every day.
Yeah. And we have that free series that's on Bill's website, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, everyone. Love us. Love you, Jeff. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all at the conference.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. Namaste.